Negro has no idea what or who they are. And because they suffer from low self-esteem and a lack of self-awareness, they will do anything to be recognized and accepted by others, even their own enemy. Well, where did Negroes come from?
All right, sir.
How did Negroes come into being? I have to tell y'all the truth. We weren't.
What's up, YouTube family? Welcome back to my space. This is Evans Rayola. Family, many a times when you mention the word Negro, the first thing that comes to somebody's mind is that a Negro is a black person. But that is not the truth. A Negro is, of course, a black person, but a black person who's been given a new identity by the white supremacists. So Dr. Ray Hagins spoke on the origin of the Negroes in the US, and I found that topic to be very, very integral, and I thought that I should share it with you guys. So Dr. Ray Hagins, a prominent scholar and speaker, often discusses topics related to African history, culture, and spirituality. He typically explores origins of the terms like Negro in the context of how Africans were historically identified and categorized during colonization and slavery. The term Negro, which comes from the Latin word for black, was used by Europeans to describe Africans based on their skin color. Dr. Hagins challenges many conventional narratives about the African diaspora and often emphasizes that the term Negro was imposed upon African people to strip them of their cultural identity, heritage, and history. He often stresses the importance of reconnecting with one's African roots and rejecting labels imposed by colonial powers. In essence, Hagins' discussions center on how the label Negro is a product of Eurocentric classification rather than a true reflection of African people's origins. He advocates for a deeper understanding of African ancestry beyond racialized labels. So guys, I want us to watch that video of Dr. Hagins advising black folks. Then once the video ends, we'll come back and do a critical analysis of the same.
A Negro, check out what Webster says now, a Negro is a black person. A member of the dominant group of mankind in Africa. According to Webster, a Negro is one who is characterized by dark skin. Well, I got a problem with that definition because what I just read fits every last one of us in this room. And I'm not a Negro. And some of you are not Negroes. Some of you are Negroes. And I'm going to tell you how that happened. If y'all don't mind, I would like to exercise the authority of the Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And I'd like to reach into those 7 principles and grab one word pronounced Kujichagulia, which means self-determination. The reason why I want to do this, y'all, is because Kujichagulia says that we must define ourselves. We must name ourselves. We must create for ourselves and speak for ourselves instead of being defined, named, and created for and spoken for by others. So if I can exercise the principle of Kujichagulia, let me define for you what a Negro is. Instead of listening to this white man named Webster. Let us black folk determine what is a Negro. A Negro Negro, now this is Ray Hagins' definition, you don't have to accept it, but it's the best I can come up with. A Negro is a non-person, N-O-N dash person. A Negro is a body without a mind. A Negro is an empty shell that has been programmed to destroy its own kind. A Negro is anything that would destroy the fostering of African liberation. A Negro has no idea what or who they are. And because they suffer from low self-esteem and a lack of self-awareness, they will do anything to be recognized and accepted by others, even their own enemy. Well, where did Negroes come from? How did Negroes come into being? I have to tell y'all the truth. We weren't always like we are. I look at other people, other nationalities, and I've seen, maybe you've seen it too, I've seen a group, a few people from another ethnic group come into town, and they all pitched in and moved into a big apartment, and through nepotism they saved up their money, and then a few years later they all went and bought their own house. I've seen ethnic groups come into town and through cooperative economics, in a matter of 15 or 20 years, they own an 8-block radius of homes and stores and markets. And I say, Lord, what's wrong with my folk? We've been here longer than any other ethnic group, and yet we have less than any other ethnic group. Why is that? An African Holy Ghost said to me, because of Negroes. Let me tell you how this happened. Everybody say psychological and social engineering. Now, follow what I'm saying. I'm going to try to paint this picture for you. Everybody comes to this country from their country, and when they come here, they bring with them their own language. They bring with them their own style of dress. They come here with family traditions. They come here from their land with memories of what it was like in the homeland. They come here with a strong culture and a spiritual and personal identity to build upon. Everybody that comes here, every immigrant that comes here with the things I just named. Always remember, brothers and sisters, and hear me good, always, don't ever forget this. The founding fathers, what did I just say? The founding fathers, by the way, who were our slave masters. Now see, children, when y'all read about the founding fathers in school, let the teacher know that yes, our pastor told us that they were our slave masters. You tell the teacher that, okay? The founding fathers, who were our slave masters, never intended for the African Africans that they imported by force to develop their own stable communities based on our African cultural traditions. Please understand that. What America and other European colonies created and sought to maintain was a permanent working class of people who would always be subjugated to them. Did y'all hear what I said? I don't care how much and how loud you holler their Jesus. They still want you subjugated to them, and they still want you working for and serving them, because that's the only acceptable place for you in their mind. Commercial investors, wealthy landowners, and colonial governments combined their forces to suppress any possibility of Africans ever becoming a dominant force in the land.
Come on, sir. Go ahead.
Why did they do this? Because if we ever became a dominant force in the land, one day we just might bring retribution and judgment on them for how they treated our great-grandparents. Listen, brothers and sisters, in order for the slave trade to be profitable back then, and for white supremacy to exist today, repeat this after me. All resistance to the system of racism had to be and must be crushed. Did you digest that yet? Their program cannot prosper unless they crush every bit of resistance against supremacy of the white race. So the only way they could crush resistance is to make Negroes. Follow this now. You see, it was too risky to have a Moor walking around. Too risky to have a Mandinka walking around. Too risky to have a Hausa or a Fulani walking around. It was too risky to have a Senegalese or a Sudanese or an Abyssinian walking around knowing who they are. They couldn't have that. They could not risk having an African who was the son of a university professor. Come on. They could not, nor can they today, risk having an African who is the daughter of a high African government official walking around knowing who she is. Those who captured our people and sold our people and owned our people were very calculating and methodical in how to survive. Let's make Negroes out of these Africans. Look at the person next to you and say, there is a difference between an African and a Negro. Well, what was the process? The first thing that had to be done in changing the African into a Negro was they had to remove all signs of personal identification.
That's right.
Y'all with me?
Yes.
When Africans were brought to this country, guess what, y'all? They were stripped of their clothes. And something else, their heads were shaved. Sounds a little familiar if any one of you been in the military. I remember my first night in Marine Corps boot camp. When I stepped off that gray dog, we got about 2 hours of sleep, and the next morning, first thing they did to us was stripped us of our clothing and shaved all our hair off. And anything that we had, rings or anything, that gave us an awareness of what we were before we got here, they took it from us. And then they turned around and told every last one of us, whatever color you were, you're no longer that. The color you are now is green. Am I telling y'all know what I'm talking about? And they walk up to you and say, what color are you, recruit? And like a fool, I stood there and said, green, sir. What are you? Instead of saying an African warrior, I stood there and said, a little green amphibious monster. That's their way. The reason that they do this is that's their way of removing all indications of a national affiliation, removing any indication of an individual status. Whatever you were, you no longer was that. And this was their way of removing a person's personal style. Y'all remember Roots? With Kunta Kinte? A little warrior prince, and they would not stop until they broke him and made him say, my name is Toby, sir. Today, brothers and sisters, this same European program is being promoted in the minds of our children. Let me tell you how it's happening. You know, what they do now in school is they give false impressions of our children and Africans by showing them pictures in their school books of Africans who ain't got no clothes on. Come on, people, we dressed in fine robes. We dressed in royalty and gold and headdresses. And some of you black beautiful women still do it because y'all put these hats on. Because you see, that's your genetic memory bank talking to y'all, saying, let me put on this awesome hat. Because see, that comes from Africa. But the pictures they show our children in school is giving a false impression of Africans of not having on any clothes and being civilized by white folk who are fully dressed. The pictures and images that they show are little black Africans walking around and running through the bushes with a piece of cloth covering their genitalia and a ring in their nose and a spear in their hand, running around grass huts. While, of course, the white professor is the one who has come to give us an education and civilize us.
Family, Dr. Hagins exposed a very, very vital information to black folks all over the world. The information is that we all have been lied to the whole time, that we are all Negros. But now there's been a deep, deep secret when it comes to the word Negro. A Negro is a person who's left their country, many a times a black person who's left Africa, you know, during the days of slavery and taken to the US. Then when he reaches there, he's being stripped of his identity, his culture, and now he started being defined by a white folk in the US. That literally is the definition of a Negro. A person who's stripped off their culture by a white supremacist. And I found that topic very, very instrumental to black folks, and I thought It's a topic that I'd want to share with my audience so that we all may be able to understand the lies we've been told this whole time. Then Dr. Hagins starts his conversation by saying, where did Negroes come from? You know, a Negro is one who is characterized with dark skin. I am not a Negro, and some of you are not Negroes. That are the words of Dr. Hagins. He proceeds to say, kujiangalia. You know, kujiangalia is a Swahili word, and he says it meant self-determination. We must define ourselves. We must name ourselves. We must create and speak for ourselves instead of being defined and named by others. You know, like many people after slavery were done for by the white supremacists. They were given new names. They were told to take off their clothes. You know, they did not want them to connect with anything that would remind them where they came from. You know, and instead of being defined and named by others, this is a white man name, not yours. Let me define to you what the name Negro means. A Negro is a non-person, is somebody without a mind. It's an empty shell that has been programmed to destroy its own kind. You know, it's anything made to destroy the fostering of African liberation. A Negro has no idea what and who they are. You know, a Negro is somebody who's being introduced to a whole new culture and stripped off his own culture. You know, you do not know nothing about yourself. You've been given a new identity, a new name. You know, then now you're being taken as somebody who cannot stand for themselves. And that's what white supremacists are doing even in this day and time. Employing black people, giving them low wages, disturbing them, just ensuring that they do not connect to their actual history. Because they suffer from low self-esteem and lack of self-awareness, they will do anything to be recognized and accepted by others, even their own enemies. That's a Negro. Where did Negroes come from? How did they come to being? Family. Negroes, of course, were black men who were taken forcefully outside of Africa. You know, traveled, battered, worked for so many years without wages. And then the slave bosses tried really, really hard to strip off their minds, give them a new identity. You know, that's a Negro, and that's how a Negro was formed. We have been here longer than any other ethnic group. That's the US now. Black folks have been there longer than any other ethnic group, and yet we have less. And it's because of Negroes. You know, black people have been in the US for the longest time, and many a times white folks are doing better than them. And the reason, according to Pastor Hagins, is because of the Negroes. It's because of the psychological and social engineering. Everybody comes here from their own country and come here with their own culture. What America and other European colonies created and sought to maintain is a permanent working class of people who are always subjugated to them. They want you working for them and serving them. Commercial investors, wealthy landowners, and colonial governments combined their forces to surpass any possibilities of Africans becoming dominant in the land. If we ever become a dominant force in the land one day, we just might bring retribution and judgment on them for how they treated our grandparents. He proceeds to say, all resistance to the system of racism must be and must hard to be crushed. Their program cannot prosper unless they crush any system of resistance against the white race. The only way they could crush resistance is to make Negroes. Now, this is where Negroes came from. the white supremacists trying to crush any form of resistance from black people. Now they had to create the Negros. It was risky for them having black people walking around knowing who they are. They could not risk having an African who was the son of a universal professor. So they had to form a Negro. When you reach their land, you remove your clothes, you remove your rings, remove your shoes, and anything that would remind you of where you're coming from. And that way, you'd become their subject and they'll be your master. That way, you'll become fully a Negro. There's a difference between an African and a Negro. The first thing they did was remove all signs of personal identification. They were stripped off their clothes, their heads, and they were shaved. They took everything that would give awareness of what we actually were. So guys, in case you've been wondering who a Negro is, Dr. Hagins has just made it clear to us that a Negro is somebody who's been stripped of his culture, you know, his identity. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Kindly do consider subscribing to my channel for amazing black stories in Africa and in the diaspora. Currently, I've been doing a series on the history of black people in the US and in Africa, and I'd want you to go and watch all the other videos, guys. Kindly do consider subscribing, like this video so that it can be recommended to other YouTube users, and I'll be so grateful, guys. See you all in my next episode. Goodbye.